I'm Andrea Lopez Villafana.
I'm Andrew Keats.
I'm Scott Lewis.
We host the Voice of San Diego podcast, the most popular public affairs podcast in San Diego. Every Friday, we break down the news
we think you should know in San Diego.
Things like housing,
homelessness,
education,
elections,
political drama,
the big stories that dominate the news,
and the ones that slip under the radar. We also interview local lawmakers, policy experts, and other investigative journalists.
The Voice of San Diego podcast, every Friday.
Subscribe now, wherever you listen.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Season 5, Episode 11 of the Roast West Coast Coffee Podcast. I'm Ryan Wolt, and this is the show where I bring you the stories of coffee professionals, entrepreneurship, and coffee education. Not only are we halfway through Season 5 already, this is officially the 100th episode of this show. In a few moments, you'll hear this week's interview with co-owner of Kiln Coffee Bar in Grand Junction, Colorado, David Foster. But first, I want to assure you that I have actually counted the number of episodes several times, and this really is 100. It is fitting that this episode features a roaster that I've been visiting for quite a bit longer than I've been doing this show. Kiln is a destination stop for my wife and I on our annual holiday travels. We even plan the stops of our trip around Kiln's holiday hours, so that we can get there early enough to enjoy coffee without feeling rushed before finishing our journey. Early on in this episode, David says something that is incredibly relevant to every entrepreneur. When I ask him about his role at the company, almost under his breath, he says that the roles are constantly shifting. Keep that in mind while you're listening to this show, and especially if you're out there listening while plotting your own entrepreneurial journey. If you want to see photos while you're listening, follow and check out @Kiln Coffee Bar on Instagram or Facebook, and check out the newest post on roastwestcoast.com. Those will be linked in this show's notes. As for me, I'm going to fill up my wife's Kiln travel mug with coffee, break out my lined pocket notebook, and start plotting the next 100 episodes. And you should be taking the day's first slurps of espresso, plunging the handle down on the first French press coffee, or listening to the drip of your morning pour-over. Because you need a great cup of coffee to go along with this interview with David Foster, co-founder of Kiln Coffee Bar in Grand Junction, Colorado. Nice to meet you,
Hey.
obviously. And this is the Roast West Coast Coffee Podcast. I see you got a Mariners cap on. You know who they play today?
They do play today. They play this evening at 7:40. So
Nice. Yeah, I'm a big Brewers fan myself, but I did dress up as Ken Griffey Jr. for Halloween for like many years in a row as a kid.
that's fantastic. So the Mariners are playing the Phillies this week, and one of our regular customers is a Phillies fan, so I'm watching the Phillies game with him this week.
I feel like no one is a Phillies fan unless they lived in Philly, and
Yeah,
then
he lives in Philly.
a diehard Phillies fan.
Yeah.
It's just it's insane. So I was a Yankees fan for a long time, and then I moved to New York and started going to Yankees games in person, and they just weren't as much fun.
Yeah.
And the vibe was a little bit different. And I made a decision that when Derek Jeter retired, I would retire as a Yankee fan. When that happened, went out, buried my Yankee cap at the park, and had a little ceremony and a beer, and nothing but the Brewers ever since.
That sounds fantastic.
If you wouldn't mind, just for the tape, if you could just say your name, what your coffee company is, and kind of what your role there is, I'd appreciate it.
Cool. Yeah. I'm David Foster, co-owner at Kiln Coffee Bar in Grand Junction, Colorado. And I co-own it with my twin brother, John. And this May is 5 years. I've been open for 5 years. And what was the last thing?
Just like what your role was there as an owner, where do you lean towards in the business?
My role, I work about 25 to 30 hours behind the bar. I'm actually switching more to the 25 range here starting in June. So typically I've been more like 35 hours. But I'm mostly managing, roles are constantly shifting. I mostly oversee inside the shop. We have two managers in the shop, and we also, in June, we're taking on a shift lead position. And so they're all full-time salary, and I'm kind of head over making sure they're all in good place, managing scheduling and just kind of maintaining the shop side of things. My brother runs like the roasting side of things and also does all the finances and all that kind of end of things. And so, but it always feels like we're changing hats. And actually things like this, meeting up with city people or whatever it might be, is typically usually ends up being my thing, which is funny because my brother's the extroverted one. I'm the introverted one. I've grown to really enjoy having these conversations because I feel like we're passionate about what we do. And it's fun to have a conversation about it. And so, yeah.
I thought you were around for longer than 5 years. So full disclosure to anyone listening, I've been going to Kiln on my travels through to Frisco, Colorado every year. And I thought it was longer than that. But that's kind of how I discovered you, is we always spend the night in Grand Junction or Fruta and ended up in your shop. You and your brother, John, co-owning this. I'm wondering if you if you had kind of a first experience either by yourself or together with coffee that made you think, before the business was part of it, like, yeah, I'm kind of into this. Like, this is something I like.
We actually grew up hanging out in coffee shops with buddies, and we'd go and play card games, board games with buddies. We'd just go and read books, you name it. We were just hanging out in coffee shops in high school. For some reason, I'm not sure how that ended up being. There was it no longer exists, but there's a lady named Olivera that I think she had 4 shops at one time in Hemet, California, where we grew up. That's typically where we would end up hanging out, and it shifted depending on that. Always changed. So we always loved hanging out in coffee shops. And for us, it was more so the community side of things. It wasn't necessarily the coffee into things. I feel like coffee was something, we started off drinking Frappuccinos, caramel macchiatos, you name it, the gateway drug. So we always joked around about running a coffee shop together just because we loved the community aspect. We didn't know anything about business or anything about coffee. My brother got a job at Pete's Coffee in college in Newport Beach. He worked at the one right down the street from the beach. And that's kind of where he started getting his knowledge in coffee. I didn't get my first job in coffee until I actually got a job because of his experience. He just called the lady up and asked if they were hiring, and she hired both of us on the spot because he had coffee experience. And for some reason, they thought because I'm his twin, I'll figure it out.
Some sort of twin connection where you can all of a sudden pull shots.
It's being a twin's odd at times because people they definitely like playing baseball growing up. We would always have to be on the same teams because the coach never wanted to offend one of us if it was both of us going to varsity or both of us being on JV, whatever it might be. But we've found the same thing. So we both got a job, and it was in Montana at a coffee shop called City Brew. I think they have around 11 or 12 coffee shops throughout Montana now. They're kind of a like Starbucks-esque model that has grown significantly in Montana. They've done a good job. We both worked there for about 6 months, and then we moved to Davis, California. Actually, we both met our wives working at a coffee shop in Davis, California. My brother's wife was a barista along with us. Her name's Deborah, and then my wife was a student that was coming and studying that I was flirting with coming in. And so, and I ended up managing that coffee shop. And so that was the first time I kind of got managerial experience and just learning ordering and all that, you name it. I did all the hiring and all the scheduling, and I basically try to do everything to make it as easy as possible on the owners because I genuinely loved and appreciated the owners. I didn't start working in a craft coffee shop until after that coffee shop. My first and last coffee shop working for was Pachamama Coffee Roasters, and they're in Sacramento. At the time, they had a shop in Davis, which they no longer have it there. They're unique in the sense that they're technically farmer-owned. So the owner of that worked for, I'm blanking on the name. But he worked for a company that he was over in Peru for a while. And so that's where the name came from, was Pachamama, I think is Mother Earth in Peruvian.
That's really interesting, the farmer-owned concept, meaning I'm assuming you mean the Peruvian farm was the owner, or the owner owned both the shop and the farm.
It's a collective of farms. And I'm not sure the exact model and how he makes it work. I never fully gathered it while I was there, but that's how they market it. And they have all the photos of their farmers in the shop, and they're pretty intentional with their product. So yeah, it's a unique concept, and I haven't seen anybody else do anything remotely like it.
Very interesting. There's a farmer-owned shop here it's in Del Mar, but the farm is technically like 3 acres that is also here in San Diego County, so it's not quite the same concept. It's more of a domestic style
For
thing.
sure.
So did you go from Pachumama to opening your own place then? Was that the next jump?
I worked in special education for 3 years. So I was kind of out of the coffee industry for a while. And to be honest with you, so I got married in California in 2017. And my wife and I, was it seven? That was 2016. My wife and I moved out here to Colorado right after we got married. And again, the dream was always to open a coffee shop together, my brother and I. My brother was living on the Front Range at the time, and we live in Grand Junction. That's on the western slope, so we're about 4 hours.
Well, 4 hours if the weather is good.
If the weather's good, yeah, and the roads are good, which is not very common nowadays, summer and winter.
Yeah, on our way home this last December, we made it an hour. We were an hour, maybe hour and a half out of Grand Junction, and the highway was just shut down for avalanche warnings. And we just sat there like
The worst.
at a Shell gas station for 4 hours waiting to see if they would open up. Because you never knew. You're like, oh, well, should I take this other sketchy road around that I've never been on? Should I wait for the highway? So I always caveat any travel times in Colorado.
For sure.
The weather's good.
Yeah, and so when moving here, I mean, the idea is maybe at some point, I always would tell people 5 years, because that's the excuse of like, oh, 5 years is far enough away that I don't have to think about it that much. But actually, my brother came to visit about 4 months after we moved here. And at the time, the college was growing. I think it's the second fastest growing university in the country. I don't know if it still is, but it still is growing pretty rapidly. The community was just in a big growth with young people moving to Grand Junction. Kind of the overflow from Denver, and my brother just kind of looked at me and was like, dude, if we're going to do this, now's the time. There's no one doing craft style coffee in Grand Junction yet. I'm not sure if you got to visit Best Slope at all in Fruita.
Mm-hmm.
Best Slope does a fantastic job. They were them and Cimarron Roasters and Montrose, right? The first two on the Western Slope doing craft coffee. And I actually live in Fruita right down the street from Best Slope Coffee. My wife and I are always there on Saturday and Sunday. We're good buddies with the owners and all the baristas there.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we go there to get coffee and then an acai bowl in the morning.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Up there.
So I didn't know they existed until we moved here. They had opened 2 months before we moved. And we literally moved, and somebody told me there's a new coffee shop. And I was like, it's probably just another coffee shop. There's no way it's craft. And I walked in there, like literally, it was one of the most emotional experiences, feeling like I had given it up coming here and realizing that it's right down the street from my house. I was so pumped. Yeah. So my brother's definitely the ones like, we need to start writing a business plan and get this going.
What made you think that it was a decision? I mean, it was always kind of a dream, but if you're working in special education, that's also an intense career.
Yeah.
Is there an alternate universe in which you're still not in coffee and you're doing that? Was there ever any question that this was something you were going to jump? Because you're not only leaving a career or job, at least, you're taking a risk and starting your own business.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny because I deal with a lot of anxiety. And so opening your own business doesn't sound like something necessarily I would do. I think it primarily my brother and my relationship made it easy, knowing that we have each other's support, and it just seemed to, I could see myself working in special education. There's aspects that I loved. I had a hard time. I wasn't a teacher. I worked as a paraeducator, and so I worked alongside the teachers. And the support that I had with students in California, I worked primarily with pretty severe needs and a lot of more psychological stuff. And so the students that I got to work with, there was one student in particular that I grew really close to, because you easily see, I see myself. And obviously in more extreme behaviors, and that's why they're in the class. But relationships like that make me consider in the future, when we're done with this, whatever it might be, definitely have fond memories. But I definitely had a hard year here. The 1 year I worked in special education here, I dealt with a lot of depression for sure, feeling like wasn't really valued, and the student I was working with was pretty difficult for sure.
Well, it's such an emotional job and it takes a special skill set. And just a shout out to anyone who works with kids and with special education. I mean, I see what my wife does and the ability she has to work with kids on their level wherever they're at. I volunteer a little bit with some of her students, and a half an hour a month for me, I'm like an emotional wreck. How
Yeah.
she manages to do it every day is just amazing to me.
You have to have a great support system, that's for sure.
And that is really important because she, I know she communicates with her old classmates and stuff in different situations. You mentioned you worked with teachers, but like, especially now where people have been leaving the industry, I think roles like that were always extremely valuable, but you essentially are taking on the roles of teachers because there's just not enough people to go around that do this work
Yeah,
anymore.
for sure.
Did your brother ever try to convince you to move to the other side of the mountain range there?
No. Well, I guess kind of joked around about it when we were still in California. My wife and I we actually visited them out there. And then my wife's aunt and uncle had retired here in Grand Junction because one of her cousins had married a farmer out here. So her cousin comes in all the time. And so I always joke around with people that we wouldn't exist if it wasn't for her marrying a farmer. But we basically ended up here because of that decision. I think there was kind of a joke at the beginning, but we were just kind of interested in finding a place to live. Actually, Nashville was on the table at one point, and I don't think we didn't really make a decision of where we were going to move based off where we wanted to put a coffee shop. We were just kind of figuring out what we wanted in this next season of life.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Do you move to the place you want to live, or do you move to the place where there's opportunity, and how do you find the overlap?
Yep.
Always struggle with that question. What about the name Kiln? Where did that come from for you guys, and what does it mean?
Yeah, for sure. It's actually a name that a friend tossed out. We were kind of going through names. Our buddy Frank, he actually, I don't know if you've ever been to Dark Heart Coffee in Loveland, Colorado. They're fantastic people, but he was working for them at the time, and we were toying around with some ideas, and he tossed out the name Kiln. And all three of I'm sure you're familiar with C.S. Lewis, wrote the Narnia series. His house is called the Kilns. Like, part of the reason is the idea of a kiln is that a kiln refines pottery, hardens it, strengthens it. The idea is that the tradition of the coffee house is people would come in to talk philosophy and talk politics of the day. And so we kind of tied those two together in the sense that we want this space to be a place that people could come and have conversation from different backgrounds, whatever it might be, and embrace each other within each other's differences, and that we could grow stronger as a community because of that. And so that was kind of the philosophy behind Kiln, and we just took that and ran with it and have really tried to own that identity.
Yeah, and I can see it even another level just kind of reading into it, but like a kiln, the heat and the pressure of the kiln creates something new from, you put one thing in and a new thing comes out.
Yeah.
And similar with the idea of going into a coffee shop and sharing ideas and
Mm-hmm.
and coffee together. If I'm not mistaken, I think the American Revolution started in a coffee house.
I actually didn't know it.
I think there were coffee houses that revolutionaries had specified as these are our meeting places where we can pretend we are socializing, but we're also planning the revolution.
That's awesome.
In the back room. I've been to your shop. It's in downtown, kind of Grand Junction, right on kind of the main street. What is kind of the vibe like when somebody walks into Kiln? What are they going to experience? You run the shop. It's like you're a representation of what you guys are, of you.
For sure. And one thing that we tell our baristas when we hire is that we're oftentimes the first thing that people see in the morning. And we have the opportunity to set their day on a path that can be a very positive path or a very negative path, which is incredible power in your community to impact it in a positive way. Like, how cool is that, of the impact that you can have? And so definitely try to pass around the positive vibes as much as possible. But try to be as excited to see people when they walk in and greet them with friendly faces. And obviously we're humans. Sometimes we fail at that. It's part of being human. But definitely we're trying to create that fun-loving. We try to keep the space really clean. Everything's kind of has a white base to it, with a lot of wood, with black accents. And we try to make everything definitely look very clean so people can see the intention behind what we're doing. We definitely want to communicate that we care. We care about the product and we care about them as humans. And we want to make sure they have a positive experience. One thing that we also share with baristas is that we're not trying to make as much money as we can off of somebody when they walk in the door. If we can't meet their needs, we're going to send them somewhere else. So if we don't have a bagel that they're wanting to get, we could send them. There's a Main Street Bagels down the street. We could send them down there. Our style of coffee is all on the lighter end. So if somebody's coming in looking for a dark roast and just really wants a dark roast coffee, we're not going to try to sell them a cup of coffee that's going to be offensive to them. We're going to send them to the coffee shop down the street that is going to be an enjoyable cup for them. Because the reality is that we're definitely fulfilling a niche and we're passionate about what we do, but we're not going to meet everybody's needs. And at the end of the day, our goal is to meet people's needs. And if we can't, we're going to send them elsewhere so those needs can be met. And so it's definitely the culture that we try to create. We're just trying to be part of the community in a positive way and fill a need in the community and direct people elsewhere when needed.
You mentioned that your coffee is on the lighter side. I don't actually know this, but is the roasting facility in the back of that space here in downtown, or do you have another roasting space? And how did you guys kind of come up with, your roasting philosophy essentially?
Yeah. So we have a separate roasting space. It's over on 12th Street. It's not open to the public. It's actually just like a little warehouse attached to the back there's a place called Coors Wellness. It's a little chiropractic clinic. And we just lease his little warehouse behind his space. In roast out of it's about like 750 square feet or so. Like roasting philosophy. So most of the coffee shops I worked in before were more traditional style roasting. So you're getting the light, medium, dark, French roast just across the spectrum. Again, that Pachamama Coffee Cooperative was the first coffee shop that I worked in that would have been labeled under that like craft or third wave umbrella. And typically, I mean, what that means, they're kind of buzzwords in the industry. But what that means is you're not going to see labels of light, medium, and dark. You're going to just see the bean and the origin. And typically when you see those labels, what that means is it typically will land in between that light to medium stage. People will say that we're roasting to the bean, just common terms that's tossed around. And kind of the goal with that roasting style is that when you're first roasting, you kind of enter this like really grassy phase before you're getting to the roast that you're looking for. And then once you get past that like peak, so grassy, then it hits this peak. And then right after the peak, it'll start getting more of that like classic roasted taste that you might associate with the dark roast. And medium roast will have that like roasted taste or like charred taste that we're used to drinking in a cup of coffee. So the goal in craft industry is to hit that peak. Typically, I mean, the reality is that you're going to err on one side or the other. Just like being human, you're going to err on one side or the other of whatever it might be. We typically have historically probably erred a little bit more we'll push a little bit towards the lighter end because we try not to incorporate any of those more roasted tastes. There's one coffee that we have right now, our Honduras, that we push a little bit further because we kind of like adding that component to it. And so it really depends on the coffee at the end of the day, but you just kind of have fun with it and I love Cimarron Roasters. He's an hour south of us in Montrose. Talking to him, he really messes with his stuff all the time. He's always tweaking and turning. We try to find one, and we just kind of stick with it. Is our philosophy. But if you ever get a chance to meet Eric from Cimarron, he's as nerdy as they come in the coffee industry. He's a fun personality, and he knows his stuff for sure.
That's saying something too, because there are some nerdy personalities in coffee for sure. For sure. How is Kiln kind of a reflection of Grand Junction? I notice when I have been in your shop, there's generally local art on the wall or events going on. And, you've been there 5 years now, and 2.5 of those years have been during a pandemic. Western Colorado was a hotbed of COVID for a while there, so I know it was pretty intense. Mm-hmm. How have you guys handled that, and how have you guys become, more a part of this community, being outsiders to Colorado?
For sure. I mean, when we became the hotbed, I feel like you would have hoped that we would have taken it more seriously than we did as a community.
I should say that the last time I was there, I got an alert on my phone
Yeah.
saying that it was like the highest COVID count of anywhere in the country.
Yeah,
It
wasn't that in like February or something? Just this past February?
yeah, it would have been early January, I think.
Okay.
Right when I
Because I
was
know
coming
that there
through.
was a pretty big peak not too long ago, but man, I feel like the community we're it's pretty polarized in Grand Junction with the growth that's happening, and then also like traditional values, and so there's definitely some polarization with that. I feel like the community is really trying to figure out how to operate differently as it grows, and that's a big part of our passion is trying to we don't care what your background is. We just want to love on you and embrace you where you're at and try to figure out how to serve you best. Yeah, I mean, the first couple of months of COVID absolutely sucked. We're definitely in here just twiddling our thumbs. We maybe served 2 people an hour, maybe. And then we're just reading books, and we had a little disc golf basket in here. We were just putting, playing disc golf because we had all of our tables pulled back. So definitely we're trying to figure out ways to entertain ourselves and kind of creating jobs for staff to, whether it was painting or cleaning something or whatever it might be. But the first couple of months were pretty hard, but man, it was kind of a steady climb after those couple of months. And we're in a place that we're doing better than ever. We're super grateful. The community kind of came behind us, and even those couple of months, there were so many times that the community just felt like helped carry us through it, whether it's random people coming in and buying a ton of gift cards for people, or just regular customer knowing that they're not coming in and just coming in and buying a $200 gift card for when they do come in next. And random things like that people feel like is a small thing coming in and doing, but when you're kind of in the muck of it all, the small things like that really make an impact. And so there's multiple times where my brother and I both were breaking down in tears of realizing, man, pretty grateful for what we have. So,
How involved are your wives in the business? I know your brother's wife was a barista.
yeah,
And you met yours was a coffee drinker coming into the shop. So
yeah.
are they involved day to day, or do they have their own life? And this is, the brother's thing, and we're going to get out of the way.
Kind of a mixture of both. We're definitely kind of running things. My brother's wife is a nurse. My wife is a math teacher at the high school. But holidays and summer, my wife's in here working, and if we need help. And then also, one of our favorite traditions is every Christmas Eve we just give the staff off, and it's just us four that come in and work in the morning with my brother. My brother has 2 kids, and they come and sit on stools in the back with us, and we just do free drip coffee that day. We all come in our Christmas PJs. And so it's kind of our fun way to engage with the community. And it's a fun day, everybody's in fun spirits. And so we're just open for 3 hours that day. And the community I feel like over the past 3 years, found that as a tradition. And so we definitely, this last year was super busy. It's just so much fun for us. And I feel like we're kind of building any way that we could build that sense of community or purpose together. Definitely our wives enjoy being in here and love being a part of it. And they know how meaningful it is to us as well. So, yeah.
Well, then what's coming up next? I mean, 5 years is I think a tipping point for any small business. You kind of feel established, and you've certainly survived something very difficult with the pandemic. Where do you see Kiln going, and what's the plan, if there is one?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, we've tossed around so many ideas, and there's a lot of opportunities in Grand Junction with the growth that's happening right now. There's a lot of things going down at the riverfront, and people are constantly asking us about if we would be interested or willing to put in a coffee shop somewhere. The interest I wouldn't say is not there, but I think COVID definitely dialed us back a little bit in the sense of being intentional with what we have and really trying to put as much energy as we can into it. One thing that we are interested or open to at some point is our roasting space I mentioned is in a little warehouse. We would be interested if there was a space that we could purchase at some point or something that really made sense for us to be long-term. We have a 15-year lease here in downtown Grand Junction, and we've only been on 1 year of it, so we have 14 more years. But we'd love to find a more permanent location for our roasting space. And if we did find a more permanent location, we'd probably have some sort of small scale, whether we've talked about doing maybe small scale coffee in there, or seeing if there's a gal that works for us that really wants to have her own coffee shop someday. That's something that we're interested in helping her into, if that fits with our roasting space or whatever it might be. Or the other thing that we might be interested in with the roasting space is doing kind of like a refillery type thing, where people can come refill their coffee canisters, tea canisters, cold brew, have a bunch of kombuchas on tap, kind of just like that kind of type of model for home brewing and home use with, I guess, drinking products.
Very cool. Is your brother also a Mariners fan?
Yeah, we're both huge Mariners fans. Yeah. Our wives are both big Giants fans.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They've had a much more fun go of it, I think.
They've had a much more successful lifespan of games than the Mariners have during our lifespan.
Yeah, very, very much. It's like I grew up a Packers fan, so like my friends who are Bears fans, like, all right, good for you. Like, you're willing to fight the good fight, I guess.
When my wife complains about her Giants, I always say, tread lightly. It's been 20 years since we even had a playoff game, so I don't think I could really feel that bad for you.
No. Is there anything that I didn't ask you today, or you want people to know about Kiln or about you and about your coffee journey?
One thing that we're passionate about as far in the coffee industry, and this is a model that we've kind of taken off or been inspired by. Are you familiar with Cat and Cloud out of Santa Cruz?
Yeah.
And those guys, what they're doing?
Mm-hmm.
They're doing a really good job at kind of reinventing the barista model as far as being viewed as an actual job that is valued. I feel like traditionally baristas are perceived as, just customer service job, minimum wage. You're going to end up with some people you're going to have some good baristas. You're going to have some that are just there trying to make minimum wage or make ends meet. And so we're definitely kind of taken from their model in the sense of, we have 3 staff that are full-time salary positions with benefits, trying to build more long-term positions that people are excited about staying. And if it fits with us, awesome. If it doesn't, if they're looking for something else long-term, awesome. But so right now we have 2 full-time positions that they've both been with us for the 5 years that we've been open. And then the one gal that's jumping into a full-time position here in June, she'll have been with us for almost a year. But definitely that's not something that we just offer anybody. It's definitely like when we see employees putting in a lot of positive energy and working their butt off, we're just like, man, we'd love to keep them around. And so, but John and I joke around about our philosophy is, I'm sure you're familiar with Tom Brady as a football fan, unfortunately.
Everybody's familiar with Tom Brady.
Tom Brady, historically has said that he'll take a lower paycheck if it means having better players around him. And so John and I joke around. We have the Tom Brady philosophy. We'll take a lower paycheck just so we can have people that we love to work with around us. And so that's a lot of it's been inspired by what Cat and Cloud's doing in Santa Cruz. So hats off to them for how they're impacting the coffee industry.
I think by my count, that is 4, maybe 5 other coffee roasters you've shouted out on this show. So I can tell that's like a theme with you, that you're always trying to uplift other people. My last question for you, when you go to one of these other coffee shops, what is it that you're ordering for yourself?
Oh man, I'm as boring as it gets. And I'm just, I've historically been a cheap person to a fault. So
that's a good business owner trait though, right?
Yeah, drip coffee. If I'm going to treat myself, so my brother and I just did a trip to Austin, Texas together and went to Merit Coffee every day while we were there. They do free drip refills. And we love Merit Coffee. And so we were just like, man, we're not going to go anywhere else. We can sit here and drink drip. But if I'm going to treat myself, I'll get a cortado. If I'm going the espresso route, I'll start craving espresso maybe once every 3 months or something. But if I am going to treat myself and I want an experience with my coffee too, I'll get a pour over, and I'll usually get something in the natural honey processed or some sort of different process that seems to be a little bit more experiential for fun. But yeah, for the most part, I'm pretty basic. I'll just go for a drip.
Nothing basic about it. I think that almost everyone that I ask this question to says that in some fashion, which is great because you really get to. I think drip is a great reflection of a coffee shop because you if they care enough to make their drip excellent, it's only going to go up in the other realms of their shop. It's kind of, I used to judge restaurants based on the quality of their toilet paper because if they had good toilet paper, it meant that they cared about their employees. That was kind of my theory.
That's a huge part of our business philosophy is if you pay attention to the little things, then everything else will shine. And so, yeah, that's huge.
Well, very cool. David, I really appreciate you taking, some time to talk to us about Kiln and for being one of my wife and I's favorite stops when we travel across the country.
Awesome. I'm glad you guys have enjoyed your time. So thanks for having me on.
Okay, to recap, and to quote David, we care about the product and we care about them as humans, end quote. That is the message that David and Jonathan pass along to their team about their customers. It is a pretty good mission statement for any business. After getting started in coffee, David worked in the education system with special needs programs before opening Kiln with his brother. I imagine the patience and need to adapt to the changing needs of students helped him build foundational skills that have benefited his entrepreneurial efforts at Kiln. It's a good reminder that everything we do leads up to the thing we end up doing. The way educators, and special needs educators in particular, have risen to the challenge over the past few years has been incredible. I know I can't adequately describe the pride that I feel about my wife and her work as a school-based occupational therapist. Kiln is based in downtown Grand Junction and has become a hub in what is a quickly evolving community that has grown more than 10% since 2010. David and John have at least 14 more years on their lease to evolve along with the community. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do next. After we finished recording, I learned that David is a fellow podcaster. He co-hosts The Grind, a disc golf podcast, which I just followed on Spotify, and you should too. Finally, I take my baseball fanhood very seriously. I struggled with the idea that I would retire my support for the Yankees for a long time before making the move. I respect David's support of the Mariners, who've had a real rough couple of decades. My team, the Milwaukee Brewers, were in that same boat for a long, long time before turning a corner in the 2010s. I wish him, but of course not the Mariners team, a lot of luck in surviving this season. Check out kilncoffeebar.com to see what coffees that they are currently offering and to order a bag, or see more photos of their cafe. You can find that link in the show notes, and Kiln is going to be celebrating a big anniversary in July. They are going to be doing a bunch of giveaways, including Kiln coffee and merchandise, and even a paddleboard through their social media accounts. Now is the time to follow at Kiln Coffee Bar on Instagram and Facebook so you don't miss that. Follow at Roast West Coast while you're there, and check out this show's newsletter at roastwestcoast.com. Please subscribe to this show. You can subscribe for free, and I'll send this podcast to your email every single week. Or help this show grow by choosing one of the paid subscription options. You'll get access to the Bean Journal, and paid subscriptions and this show's sponsors are the reason I can keep this program going. I mentioned at the top that this was the 100th episode. I need to thank two people who were instrumental in making that happen. Steve Rail is the founder, owner, and head roaster of Zumbar Coffee and Tea. They have two locations, the original in Mission Valley and the second in Cardiff, California. That Cardiff location was one of the very first craft coffee shops that I went to after moving here to San Diego. It was the first place I had a French press coffee ever, and when I decided to launch this show, Steve was the first person I reached out to. He was the very first interview, and I recorded that episode on my phone while he and I talked through Google Meet. COVID was still new, and no one knew for sure how long we were going to be staying home. As the show progressed and it was clear I would need some sort of help sustaining it, Steve was also the first person I reached out to for a show sponsorship. When he said yes, it gave me the confidence that I needed to think that this show could be more than just a short-term project. I've been grateful for his and Zumbar's support ever since. Their Hummingbird coffee blend is still one of my favorites, and I regularly brew it in a French press here at home. Secondly, if you've listened to any of the first few seasons of this show, you know Chris O'Brien of Coffee Cycle Roasting is my own personal coffee sensei, and he's one of the main inspirations for this show. A few years back, I had the opportunity to open a coffee and beer bar, and I backed out of the deal because I didn't know anything about the coffee industry. It was such a big risk for me, and I just wasn't confident it would be a success without that knowledge. It always bothered me that I had to back out because I didn't feel like I had that knowledge. When Chris was opening his cafe in Pacific Beach, I asked him how much he would charge to teach me about coffee. I wasn't planning on opening a cafe bar anymore, but I still wanted to learn. He offered to teach me in exchange for helping him out in the new shop once a week. In the beginning, it was just me and him most of the time. Customers were still learning we were there. During the downtime, he trained me to be a barista in much the way Mr. Miyagi taught Danielson. One day in the shop became 2, which became 3, which became more than I could manage while still being a full-time restaurant GM. And after a year, I left that position. But the conversations that we had about coffee stuck with me, as did my friendship with Chris. At the time, I remember saying, we should record these. I feel like other people interested in coffee would be interested in this stuff too. But podcasts hadn't really become so ubiquitous yet. And realistically, we were both so busy back then, there was just no way for it to happen. It took a pandemic and the prospect of losing my mind sitting at home for this to become a reality. Once again, Chris graciously offered and continues to offer his time and expertise to this show. Without his coffee knowledge as a base for our Coffee Smarter sessions, I am certain this show wouldn't exist. Thank you, Steve and Chris, so much appreciation. Since then, great recurring guests like Jared Hales and especially Siri Simran Khalsa have helped us take our coffee knowledge to the next level with some support from this show's roast industry partners, including Café Laterre, Moster Coffee Company, Steady State Coffee Roasting, Camp Coffee Company, Ignite Coffee Company, Ascend Roasters, First Light Whiskey, Maria Coffee, Cape Horn Coffee Importers, and the aforementioned Zumbar Coffee and Tea and Coffee Cycle Roasting. Shout out to Leap Coffee, who are on their own journey, but they were partners and big supporters of this show through the first 4 seasons, and to the Coast News Group for helping distribute this show every week, and for helping me get started in podcasting by letting me host a few of the shows on their behalf. All of those partners have been foundational in this show existing and improving and growing, as have you. Those of you who listen to the podcast and subscribe to the newsletter have provided me with so much more than I imagine you realize out there in the world. The emotional boost that comes with someone paying to subscribe even when they don't have to is kind of like hitting a home run in Little League. And when I meet random listeners in a cafe or see a barista with one of my stickers on their water jug, I'm filled with gratitude and pride. Thank you all for listening and for supporting this show's sponsors, for reading the newsletter and caring even a little bit about the entrepreneurial journey of others and about your morning cup of coffee. The simple act of drinking a cup of coffee connects you to an entire network of coffee professionals around the world. It is a pretty awesome and fairly delicious power that you wield. Use it wisely. This episode of the Roast West Coast Coffee Podcast and the 99 that preceded it has been written, produced, and recorded by me, Ryan Wolt. I hope this show has found you happy, healthy, and with at least enough sanity to make it through the day. For those of you headed out for a cup of coffee this week, please always tip your baristas and be sure to drink good coffee.
I like beer.
Hey everyone, if you like the Roast West Coast Coffee Podcast, you might also appreciate the I Like Beer the Podcast. Listening to these guys is like being a fly on the wall of the pub with a few of your favorite mates having a pint. These professional beer appreciators have plenty of stories to share on everything from the mating habits of penguins to their behind-the-scenes brewery experiences. Check out the I Like Beer the Podcast wherever you are listening to this show about coffee, or head to ilikebeerthepodcast.com.